started
Right.
with our session.
Right.
And with you, because you're so well known and your quantity is very well known, I won't even go into the history things. And I know you were born, but actually, let me ask you this. It's a good question. I think I should ask you because I ask it to everybody, so it would be unfair if I didn't ask it to you. So, is it correct to assume that you were born with a calculator in your hand? Were you
No,
born
that is not,
with a calculator in your hand, or
that is
a
not
money
correct, and
counting machine?
I think Robert, that is not correct, and I think that's very interesting because I ended up teaching mathematics in the university, and I still believe if there are any of my students, former students on the quantitative methods course, and I wrote a book on quantitative methods. One of the biggest issues I've had being in the social sciences was my relationship with mathematics. I had good teachers and I had bad teachers. When I had good teachers, my performance was good. When I had bad teachers, I also believed the subject was difficult.
Okay.
But luckily, as I was leaving the university, I had a very, very good teacher who passed on, and he improved my love for mathematics. And I
Okay.
think mathematics is not a difficult subject. It's the way we teach it, which is really poor, and the
Yes.
way we make it impractical, because
Yes.
it's so important to success that it should be something people understand instinctively.
So tell me, what is your actual professional training?
I am a certified public accountant.
Oh, okay.
I am a certified public accountant.
Okay.
I am a partner in a firm called Sejjaka in the company.
Yes. Yes.
But when I
one
got
of the one of the middle five.
somewhere there, it pays the bills. Yeah. When I got involved in teaching, I think I got so much gratification doing it.
Yeah.
And I've resolved that my calling is to be a teacher.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm really grateful that you did invite me here to share
Yes.
a bit of my knowledge with the Ugandans on this 360-degree mentor program.
Right.
And yeah.
So I want to put a direct question to you, as I did at the beginning of this morning, but people may have missed it. So let me ask it to you again.
Yeah.
Can you describe for us what is it about the Ugandan business environment or the market that people simply find difficult to master or to deal with, that eventually leads to the attrition? Because apart from the recent big names that we've been hearing about, the study that said Uganda is the most entrepreneurial country, also that same study pointed out that we also have the highest rate of attrition, failure. So what is it about us? What's that? What is it that's causing us problems? Broadly speaking, at a macro level, if you look generally at our market, our business environment.
Wow, Robert, that's a beautiful question. First of all, for me, I want to look at that question in the context of opportunity.
Yes.
I want to look at that question in the context of opportunity, and I want to say which country does not have its own peculiarities. And I have been around the world. You know, I'm married to a Tanzanian.
Yes, we are fully aware of that.
So when you go to Tanzania, you will find that those people have very, 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 very certain peculiarities, which which would amaze you. If you go to
Yes.
Kenya, they have their own peculiarities. Whichever country you go to all over the world, and I'm sure you've traveled.
Yeah.
So Uganda is no exception. We
Yes.
are we are very welcoming people. We are gifted by nature and all those things.
Yes.
So
Yes.
for an investor, when you come into Uganda, and you look
Yes.
at those peculiarities, the question
Yes.
then becomes: is this glass half full or is it half empty? Now,
Okay.
the investors who come here and become very, very successful, they see opportunity.
Right.
There's a word we use in describing the pessimist, and we say the
Yes.
pessimist is the one who sees the problem in every solution. So
Yes.
I do not want to think in terms of poor, bad circumstances. I want to think in terms of these peculiarities offering certain opportunities to do business. The question then becomes: Do we as Ugandans see those opportunities to do business? And I don't want to make this abstract. Let me give you a very, very good example.
Yeah, because for me, the people I deal with here are
Yeah,
concrete people, people who are trying to do business. So they just
exactly.
want to know, what
By
is
the
it
way,
about our context?
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And I told you I'm a certified public accountant. People also
Mm-hmm.
say I'm an academic, but at heart,
Mm.
I have gotten
Yes.
where I am because I am a businessman. So let me
Okay.
give you and I want to share my heart with everybody today who's listening. When I move around Kampala, the thing that strikes me most, the thing that strikes me most is
Yeah.
the amount of chaos,
Mm-hmm.
the level of slums. So
Yes.
when I look at these slums, Robert, I move in places like Kisenyi, I move in Makerere, Kivulu, and these
Mm.
places are in the middle of Kampala. And I see
Right.
mud hut, and I see
Mm.
mud hut, and I say, is that a mud hut or a plot?
Okay.
That is the kind of idea I'm talking about in terms of peculiar circumstances. So I see so much opportunity that we are not able to take over. Just in
Some,
Naguru, I see. Yeah,
some
yeah,
that I
yeah,
understand.
yeah,
But I want you to first deal with my question, which I asked you. That
yeah,
opportunity I see, and everybody gets in. The
yeah.
question that
Mm,
people need to understand and it's been asked, we are trying to crack is,
yeah.
why does CJ's
Mm-hmm.
succeed wildly and KFC struggles? What is that about? Is there something about our our peculiar the peculiarities you're talking about that people face and manage differently?
No, and that's what I'm trying to answer. The people who
Mm-hmm.
started TJs,
Mm.
uh, and again, this is something I could really, really talk about. That being in the business world, I know a lot of
Mm.
these people, these businesses. But more
Right.
specifically, speaking to your question, the people who started CJs have
Mm.
seen a certain opportunity in
Yes.
terms of how you run a restaurant business in this country. Okay,
But so has KFC. Yeah.
but KFC then has not seen the other things that go with that opportunity. Now, I do not
And
know if
those are
KFC. Yeah, I mean, first of all, is if you go to KFC, if you go to any of these two businesses, the first thing is the customer experience. Okay,
okay.
so if
Yes.
you're speaking about any business, whether it is the ones who are exiting, and I talked about this in the day, and I have no qualms using the names of the actual businesses. If you went to
Yeah, go
Barclays,
ahead.
there was a
Yes.
certain experience you got. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, if you went to Barclays, there was a certain experience you got. If you go to Centenary, where there are
Yes.
queues, there's a certain
Yes.
experience you get. And you ask, why are these people queuing up to put their money in Centenary Bank? So back
Yeah.
to KFC versus CJs, it
Yes.
all comes down to how the proprietor sees the customer experience as driving that business. So
Okay.
I certainly think that everybody who goes to CJ's lives
Mm.
with the feeling that I need to come back. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if the person who goes to KFC feels that they have to go back. And that cannot be put in monetary terms, because that is
So no, go
so
on,
you
go on, sir.
yeah, and so that is the peculiarity we are talking about in terms of certain businesses being successful. They're in the same space, they are successful, and certain businesses not being successful in the same space.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't use KFC and Javas. I used an example of Barclays and Stanbic. Why did I
Yes.
use that example? I was on the board of Stanbic for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
When I was on the board of Stanbic, we
Mm.
said we are an African bank.
Okay.
We said we have African roots and Africa is our home. So
Okay.
we had no issues about coming or going or leaving. This was our home. So
Mm.
whenever we encountered problems, we looked at how to solve those problems. Now,
Right.
Barclays, on the other hand, over that same time, was always not sure whether they wanted to be an African bank, or they wanted to be a global bank, or they wanted to be an investment bank, or the market wasn't big enough. So they were always having this problem of whether they wanted to be in Africa or not. So somebody sitting in a boardroom in Singapore or in London or wherever they were sitting would have looked at how much money Barclays was earning from Africa and ended up saying,
Mm.
this is small fry, we don't want to be part of it. So
Okay. Okay.
people, Barclays operating in the same market as Standard Bank. Actually, Stanbic is Standard Bank. So
Mm.
Stanbic and Barclays were operating in the same market with a different philosophy. So take that philosophy, apply it to your cafe Javas, apply it to your KFC, apply it to your own sole proprietorship, and then you have the answer. It's your attitude to the place you are in.
So exactly, that's the clarification I needed to hear.
Thank
That
you.
there is nothing wrong
Yeah.
with our circumstances. Every country has its peculiarities, as you said, and we have ours. The difference is in the way the entrepreneurs or investors view this opportunity and choose to exploit it. And if they make the wrong choices, they will fail. And if they make the right choices, they will thrive, like the case of CJ's Stanbic. Is that what you're saying? That it really comes down to the individual people who are putting in the money?
Spot on, spot on, spot on. I can't put it in better English.
So,
Hmm.
the second point, of course, would be that how they then respond to challenges and failures. Do you solve, like you said, do they see problems in every solution, or they see a solution to every problem? Would that also
Exactly.
be correct?
That is also correct.
Okay, so looking at the case studies that you've had a chance to review,
Yes.
which takes me to the second uh, question that I asked you this morning. You actually put up 10 points.
Yes.
That's what you. Can you just take us through those 10 points?
Okay. Right. Let me try and get them up here on my other screen so that I
Unfortunately, with spaces, you cannot put up the screen like on
no,
Zoom.
I
But for
can't. I'm
us
not going
here,
to put. I planned for this. I thought that in case you come. Okay. Because I thought that to make this relevant,
mm,
I need to speak to us as people in this space, because most of
yes,
us are in the MSME space,
yeah, the sole
and I
proprietorship,
noticed
small
there was also
businesses, yes,
micro, small to
yeah,
medium enterprises. So that's
yes,
that's our hustle, isn't it? We call it our hustle. So I
yeah,
needed to speak to our own hustle. Then I
yes,
also maybe need to address the issues of the Afri cells of this world and so forth. So
the
I put
corporate
this
level.
in two contexts. Yes, the corporate level. So if if I speak to these things and I put a caveat and I said, look, I have done so many businesses, and I have failed in so many businesses. You ask me later to speak to that. But one, I
Yeah.
said, if you're a sole proprietor, let me talk about bias. When you start a business, you never
Yes.
plan to fail.
No.
You always think, I am going to succeed. So you don't have a parachute. Nobody starts a business and has a parachute.
Yes.
So you have what we call bias. Okay.
So what is bias?
Bias means that you don't want to listen to any other voice that gives you a negative feeling about your idea. And that is
Precisely.
very good, because otherwise you'd never start anyway.
Exactly.
So you
That's
must have some bias. You must believe in yourself.
I am
So
like that on farming.
exactly. I've been to your farm. I've
Yes.
lambasted you. I've
Yes, and
said so many bad things to you, and you're
I have
still
refused.
soldiering on.
I've
You're,
refused to listen to you.
yes, you only stop short of calling me an idiot, but that is fine.
Yeah.
But we did talk about that. And so the first thing, which is not necessarily bad, is you must have a certain belief in yourself. Okay. The second point I raised, when you're doing your small business, you
Yes.
get emotional involvement, which in economics and commerce we call, there are sunken costs.
Yes.
You have invested, you have gotten money from your family,
Yes.
you have spent your time nursing this idea, and you have this
Yes.
baby going. So it may not
Yes.
necessarily be profitable, but you are attached to it. So
True.
when you have that kind of emotional investment, now
Yes.
the the, the cold calculative calling, the cold calculation is sunken costs are irrelevant. But when you're invested as a small micro enterprise, nobody can say that to you.
Yes.
So that was, yeah. So you are in this business. You are in this business. So if I come and I say Rujeyo, man, the connotations of the word Rujeyo are incredible.
Yeah.
So it is where your father is sleeping. I'm sorry, I am revealing a lot of secrets about you through this, but
It
it means so
is
many
okay.
things to you. You would not
Yes.
abandon it in such you didn't abandon it just for the sake of money, isn't it?
So you're not rational at that point anymore.
Yes, you're not very rational at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
But that keeps you going. Now, the third one is where now you begin to get into problems. The next
Yes.
one, which was my third point at the micro level, was
Yes.
which all of us face. You have a good business idea, and very many of our people have very good business ideas, but they lack economies of scale. Okay,
What do
they
you
lack
mean by what do you mean
what
by
I
the lack?
mean is that you are not able to grow the business to the level where your revenues cover all your costs. So you
Right.
are probably getting money from elsewhere to make this thing continue. You have this
Yes.
financial constraint. You
Yes.
are always cutting corners. Uh,
Yes.
Robert, a while ago, I troll you a bit. You posted something to do with the discrete street, right?
Yes.
So I went to find that lady, Liz. I don't know if Liz is on this. She makes incredible bags, and I bought one of the bags. But I
Yes.
was
Yes.
thinking to
Yes.
myself, how
It
many
was
people
it
are
was
buying
actually it was Caroline. There is somebody called Caroline Sent
Caroline?
who
So
sent it to us.
I looked for Liz. I bought a bag from her, and I was saying to myself, she makes incredibly nice bags. But how many people are buying these bags so that Liz is able to keep this idea going? So you face all these financial constraints, and that's the big problem. You don't have enough customers with purchasing power to
To
buy
scale up
to scale up. So you
and keep
always
and
having
sustain your cost base.
exactly. So that's what I meant by economies of scale for a small business. Okay,
Okay.
uh,
Yep.
a month without selling a bag would easily wipe out your idea. Now you
Right.
can imagine what
Right.
has happened with COVID. Okay. So
Yes.
my first point then, I need to go quickly because there are very many.
No, it's okay.
Uh,
Take your time. Huh? You're a professor. We are here. We're in class.
okay, sawa. I will take my time. Okay.
Mm.
The first point I gave is, of course, again, poor management.
Mhm.
We take it or leave it. We usually have poor branding. We use family members. Somebody
Mm.
talked about family members as the black market. You have that problem in
Black,
your business. You cannot chase
black
them
tax.
away. The black tax, yeah, they call it the black tax. Correct. You can't chase them away. You can't do that. Interestingly, when we wrote BMK's autobiography, he talks a lot
Yes.
about working with family members. But I'll come back to that. So when you talk about poor management, issues
Mm.
of control, issues of marketing, issues of branding, issues of family, they are all in there.
Right.
My fifth point, Robert, at the level of the micro enterprise,
Yes.
uh, which I mean, I could talk about this one for the whole day and for days
Uh-huh.
to come, is
Hey.
the issue of indiscipline. Okay,
Yes.
the issue of indiscipline, and some people have written extensively about culture.
Yes.
Culture
Yes.
as a defining variable in terms of this issue of indiscipline. You see,
Yes.
the moment you
Mm.
arrive, then
Mm.
you want to have immediate gratification. You want to do
Yes.
very many things. You want
Yes.
the second wife, you want the third wife, you
You
want
want
to
a
become
Benz?
a baby, you want to
Yes.
do all these things. So
Yes.
I think indiscipline can also become a problem. Um,
Meanwhile,
I don't want to.
meanwhile, the Indian is
Mm,
sleeping at the
mm.
back of the shop. He's not paying
Both,
two rents.
and they sleep as a clan in the top of the shop. Not only one person sleep at the back of the shop. The whole clan, the whole clan is
Meanwhile,
sleeping at the back of the shop. Even those who have just arrived from India, they are at the back of the shop, and
and
they are
yet
still
for
eating granite.
yes, and yet for us, each one is renting in an expensive
Yeah.
neighborhood, a big house.
You talked about cafe jobbers. One day I was having a conversation with Omar. eh?
Yes.
So Omar
Yes.
says to me, his father told him, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to dramatize this a bit. He said, "You fool! How can you
Mm-hmm.
live in Kololo and then you have bank loans?" So his
Wow.
father, and that is the cultural issue, that his father could tell him, "Sell your house in Kololo, go and do that business. I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Go and rent a house."
Wow.
Now that was very, very fundamental. Mandela told me this himself.
Yes.
I'm not quoting any in between. And that's what I was saying, that the value I can speak to 360-degree mentors, that I am talking to people I have interacted with. So Mandela sold his house, went and
Mm-hmm.
rented a
Mm-hmm.
house because his father told him he did not have the right to own a house at that level. So for us, one of the problems
Mm-hmm.
we have is we don't see this as a long game.
Yes.
Being successful is a very long game. So when people come to Ruggiero, I don't know, they think maybe that you've been doing Ruggiero for 1 day or 2 days, but I can see there is blood and sweat
Hey, I have scars on
there.
my back.
Anyway, yes, exactly. The point is that success is not an easy thing. It takes forever.
Right.
It takes forever. It takes tears. It takes blood. It takes sweat. Okay.
True. True.
So in that context, I think we have a lot of indiscipline. So we fail to stay the course, even when
Okay.
we have a good idea. Now, the
Right.
last one, which I had picked up, look, government policies, taxes, and regulations, they can ruin you when you're in a small micro enterprise business.
That's
So
yeah.
you supposing you are importing a certain raw material and you are
Mm.
making dresses, or you are
Mm.
making shoes or whatever.
School
And
uniforms.
then overnight you have a budget read, and somebody says, I am changing. From those days they used to say from midnight to night.
Yeah.
The tax is moving from 10% to 50%.
Yeah.
We have had issues on Kavera, we have had issues on. So government policies and regulations can really be a problem for the micro enterprise, and they have really been a problem. If you talk about things like electricity, and let me talk about this here because somebody asked me, Robert, I had a factory which was making making plastic pipes. Yes, I bought machines and I was making plastic pipes.
Yes.
So one of the issues that always gave me problems was the electricity tariffs and how they operated. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the night, tariffs were low. That is when they decided to load shed me. Now, that is usually the time I have mixed the raw material and half of it would get spoiled in the machine.
Because of
I
load
had like
shedding.
2 machines. Exactly. So the policy environment, the business environment can also be tough on you. So those are the things I said are critical at the micro enterprise. So I hope the people listening in can relate to all these things. Okay.
So how about
I have lived them.
how about the guys at the corporate level? What are the things they face that cause business failure?
Okay, now those ones, why there's a movie in which Danny DeVito acts. It's called Other People's Money. You guys should watch Other People's Money. It's a very very old movie, very very hilarious. But at the corporate level, the things that will make you fail is usually it's not your money. So when you fail, you go and find another job. It is the shareholders who carry the. You have no skin in the game. So that's why I was not very kind to Africell and all these Barclays fellows. But if you want to look at failure at the corporate level, the first issue is a bad business model.
Okay, how do you mean?
If you come into a market, you remember a company called Metro?
Yes.
Metro was a supermarket.
Yes.
When Metro came here, they had a shop in Uma.
Yeah.
Now, for you to shop in Uma, my friend Fred Zake was the MD. For you to shop, there was a general manager. For you to shop in Metro, you needed to get permission from somebody. And I'm wondering,
you needed to get a card.
Permission
you had to be registered.
Yes, you have to be registered, and that is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life.
What they
that
did
is a South African thing. Maybe it came from South Africa.
They imported an apartheid mentality into the business. That's really what they did. Yes, so you're right. So that was a bad.
Before they started, they chased away half the market. Yeah. Now, when it comes to companies like Africell, I have this issue of market dynamics. And I'm asking, I don't know if there's anybody from UCC who could help us. But if you are talking about telcos, how many telcos can this market take? Okay.
Actually, Sam, this market at that corporate level, for me, I believe it only can manage two serious players. Okay. So the rest,
they have a certain license which they give out at that level. They call it something. I forget. But if you get that license and you pay all that money, do the market dynamics favor you when you already have an Airtel line and you have an MTN line? I was joking, like if you had an Africell line, it was like having a third or fourth wife. You paid less attention to them than to the cardholders. So eventually, if you have this kind of business, you're going to end up having poor customer experience. So the customer experience was never good with many of these companies like Metro, like Africa. They were always operating at the margin. You can take that across to the people providing data in this market.
That's true.
That is what I meant by a poor business model.
There used to be
because other people are doing it.
Yes. Which is a typically Ugandan thing. people in the same arcade sell exactly the same shoes from the same manufacturer.
Exactly. Now you don't know if somebody paid taxes or they didn't pay taxes. But at the corporate level, it can be really effective. Now, the other point I gave you was a high cost.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to compete with my brother Ngabirano who runs factory papers,
yes,
Ngabirano does not employ expatriates. He has gotten all the Bachiga from Kabale, including the Kabushenga's cousins and whatever, and he has told them, come and do
some of Banyankole from Muntungamo.
Yes. And they are not earning expatriate salaries. They are not living in Kololo. They are not driving.
And they don't have
Toyotas or usually these people you see them because they drive a Kia or a Renault, some odd looking car.
Yeah.
So you'll know that these people they work in ShopRite or they work in a game. So there are no expatriates in capital shoppers. So capital shoppers will always beat ShopRite hands down. American Standard will always beat them hands down. So when you have these big businesses coming into Uganda, AfriCell, UTL, they have expatriates, they live in Kololo, and in dollars, they eat steak.
And yet they are not generating the income.
Yeah, they don't generate income. So that high cost base is not good for a small market like this. That high cost base is something. After some of them to come to Uganda, they are paid the something allowance.
Hardship allowance. Hardship. Plus school fees for their kids in international school. That happens.
Who does that when you're running a supermarket? So, in a sense, all those costs are loaded. All those costs are loaded on the goods that are sold. So at the end of the day, and those kinds of businesses,
and yet you don't have the customer base to cover.
You don't even have a very big middle class, So
yeah.
If
so what's your next point?
My next point was bureaucracy. If you're operating with some of these multinationals, the bureaucracy is murder. They have what they call a matrix organizational structure. What does a matrix organizational structure mean? It means you have somebody you report to in your geography.
Yes.
So you have somebody you report to in Uganda. But for the same person you report to, there's a person somewhere sitting in Singapore whom you're reporting to.
Or Dubai, Johannesburg, or Nairobi.
That kind of rubbish. Yeah. So, but you didn't realize that the person you're reporting to in Kampala does not make decisions. Let me give you a true story. I went into Barclays one day. It was called Barclays. I've been banking for Barclays for more than 30 years. And I said, I want to borrow, I think, 10 million shillings. So we filled the form, we did everything. The only thing I didn't do was to bring my mother and father. After I had done all those things.
And that's because...
Yes. Well,
that's because they were not there.
Well, I could have brought my mother. Unfortunately, my father was not there anymore. But after all of this, the relationship manager told me he was sending these papers to Singapore. Then I said, why do you have an MD in Barclays here in Uganda? So when you have that kind of structure, the people the people on the ground, they lose morale because they don't have voice. They can't run the business. But they are the ones who understand the business.
They're the ones who understand the customers.
Yes, they are the ones who understand the customers. So I think this is one of the problems we really had to deal with at Stanbic. I'm happy we did overcome it. If you go to Stanbic and you want money, you will get it. I left their board in 2017, but I can still speak for them. We solved these problems. The matrix structure does not apply to local issues. Then, of course, there was the issue of group strategy, which I've already talked about. If you're talking about a Stanbic, that is the Barclays. We said we're an African bank. Barclays does not know what it wants to do. So Stanbic will always have Barclays dinner. They'll have their breakfast, they'll have their lunch, they'll have everything that Barclays had.
Right.
Let me take
Yes.
it away from the banks. Look at British Airways versus Emirates.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
many people here ever got a chance to fly on British Airways. It was the
I never did.
crappiest. They had the crappiest plane. It was a 747. When you are flying, the
Yes.
thing was vibrating in the sky. Amazing, they never had accident. Now, you compare the British Airways experience to the Emirates experience.
Yes.
And the Emirates
Yes.
has grown to give you that incredible customer experience. But British Airways
Yes.
had a group strategy that if you have old planes, send them to Africa to fly Africans.
True.
Emirates,
And then keep.
exactly. But anyway, British Airways always gave a lousy experience. Emirates is trying to give you a world-class experience. So that is also part of the group strategy. But what they don't realize, if you have that kind of strategy to give bad service, is you end up losing your customers.
True.
Okay?
Because
So,
they get angry.
exactly.
I mean, people are flying a fantastic experience through Emirates and then had the chance to visit another country called Dubai, all for very much less and for better comfort.
Exactly. So when British Airways left, I don't know if people really shed tears. It was a lousy experience.
Well, the employees did, but that's
well, the employees. Some
so.
people suffer. There's always going to be collateral damage.
So what's the other point you were making?
Two other issues. One is fraud. Can happen in a micro enterprise. It can happen in a corporate business. These things can be a problem. You had the other story about Mugabe on BBC and BAT. Unethical business practices. Some of them, sometimes you get away with them. Sometimes they come back to hurt you. We have the famous case of Lonro and the cotton and the waters and so forth. That's a very big case. But the last one that I really thought was very important was technology. Okay.
Yes.
So I think technology can really take you out of business. And I gave when we were doing the responding to the Twitter comments, I used the page as an example. We have a case study which we use a lot at MAT in our executive programs, which is Kodak. But you have the graveyard of failed businesses is littered by businesses that were thrown out by technology. Kodak, Nokia, and they were pioneers in these fields, but they get thrown out. There's a company which used to make photocopiers, very famous company in Japan. Is it Panasonic or whatever? I don't know how many people know about Panasonic in this program.
No.
So technology was my last point. So I guess I've been able to cover the spectrum of micro and corporate level. Now, in between, there are so many other moving parts.
True.
Those moving parts really, they say the devil is in the detail.
No, but at least we have now a sense of the things that would determine and the things that a person would need to respond to.
Right.
I mean, you were talking about group strategy and so on. One of my frustrations in my former work was you would have people coming with marketing campaigns that had been conceived in Dubai and Johannesburg, and they have absolutely zero connection with the consumers in the market that they are. And then you would advise them and they would say, look, this is a group decision. It came from Dubai. Go ahead and execute it.
Right.
In fact, in one case, they brought an advert for a soft drink, and I told them, you want us to promote this soft drink? Yes. You want traction? Yes. Can you translate it into Uganda so that it fits on our TV?
Right.
And the guys refused because the bagger in Dubai couldn't understand what Uganda was, so he couldn't pass it. So anyway, Sam, let's very, very quickly. So now you have identified these pitfalls.
Right.
If you were talking to me as and somebody advising me about the things that I face at Rujeyo Farm, or you were talking to Richard Biarugaba, who is an investor in many companies, and you want to advise him to say whatever you're doing, about the money that you've put in. Look out for the following things.
Mm.
What would you tell us?
Okay. Let me again take it at the level.
I mean, from your experience,
from
of
my
course.
experience.
This is really from.
Let me take it from my experience, okay? And I will speak to the businesses in which I have failed, because as I told you, I have failed so many times. It even hurts me. Okay. The first thing is learn to fail, okay? But if you fail fast. Okay. You need to fail, then move on. I gave the story of BMK. BMK.
Yes.
Was very interesting. So somebody one day came and told him that, boss, meaning, what if you're going to road construction? You can make a lot of money. So BMK brought machines. He was getting them from Japan and whatever, these yellow goods and so forth. He went into road construction. And if you look at his autobiography, we put one of those photos on the back with him inspecting one of the roads. So BMK told me, I did roads for 2 years and I realized I was in the wrong business. I didn't understand it. So I left. So that is the first lesson. If you are going to fail fast. So don't throw good money after bad money.
Okay. After bad.
Two, I don't want us to talk about failure only in a negative sense. I think I said to you that success is a lousy teacher. That was Bill Gates.
True.
So you need to pay school fees in order to become very good. And I'm sure at Ruggiero, you have paid a lot of school fees to get you where you are. You remember when somebody was telling you about a rectangular tank versus a circular tank? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? It's breaking up a bit. Yeah. So experience.
Sam, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm there. I was giving you the example of failure, that we should not regard failure as a bad thing. Failure is a teacher, but do we learn? Do we pick the lessons from failure and take them ahead in our next venture? So I was giving the example of your rectangular tank at Ruggiero versus a circular tank. You remember how you had to do that. Now you have that experience.
Yes.
But you have had to pay.
Yes.
Now the
high price.
Yeah. Now there is also the issue of knowledge. If you are going into a business, we are in what is called the knowledge age. These days we talk about something called the science of expertise. Okay, so you can become very good at what you're doing by seeking out expert knowledge. Yes. I worked with the farm called Asili Farm. I don't know how many Ugandans here know about Asili Farm. It's somewhere in Masindi. Yes.
And they have, I think they're probably the biggest grain guys.
Exactly. And I was asking Benjamin, one of the brothers there, how they were able to get an incredibly higher harvest per acre compared to the peasants in that area. And he said, "Farm,
yes,
we are using science. We know when to plant.
Yeah.
We know when it is going to rain. We know the spacing. We know the nutrients we have to put in the soil and so forth. So there is a science that they were doing, and that enabled them to succeed. The Asili farms are one of the best maize growers in this country now. Okay, so there's something that there's a sense of science you can bring to any business. I see one of the people I saw here was I don't see her anymore, but the lady who runs there's a lady who runs the what? I'm very impressed by her. Who runs the furniture thing in
Eve. Eve Zalwang.
Yes, Eve. I troll her for interiors, something interiors. And you can see that she's applying science to what she's doing. Now, that is the kind of thing you want to be doing in your business. Okay.
Yes.
So there has to be a certain
Yes.
science.
Yes.
Okay. The third one, which I thought was very, very important, is and I've mentioned it. You need grit. You need resilience.
Yes.
You need. I think there's a book called Grit by a lady called Angela Duckworth, and she calls it stick to itiveness. I love the idea of stick to itiveness.
Actually, let me just say this to all the people who are on this spaces. If you haven't read Angela Duckworth's Grit, you are 8 years behind your goals.
Yeah.
So if you do nothing this year, read Angela Duckworth's Grit, and you'll be fine from now going on. So sorry, Sam, continue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to Grit, you can add a book called Peak, which is called Peak, The Science of Expertise by Eric Anders. And that book is equally incredible. Eric Anders, yeah. Is university professor in
There's another one. There's another one I'm currently reading by Carol Dweck.
Yeah.
The titles, I'm just reading it off. I can't find my device on which I'm reading it. But that's if you read Carol Dweck, and you read Angela Duckworth, and you read Eric Anders, you'll be good. You'll be fine. You'll be on progress. On steroids. Anyway, Sam, go on. Yeah.
Okay. The last one, really, I don't want, this is really the one which is important to me as a teacher. I don't want everybody who is listening here to think that they must be a business person, because that becomes part of the problem. Maybe some of us are not meant to be business people, but we need to define
some of you be employees.
Some of us are meant to be employees. I was an employee for 30 years plus, and there's nothing wrong with that. So one must define what success means. Okay. When I was a student in King's College, Budo, there was a man, one of the Molira, Eldad Molira. He came to give us a lecture, and when he was giving us this lecture, which I want to share with the young people here, he talked about a very successful black man who was called Booker T. Washington. It stuck with me up to now. And Booker T. Washington was a slave. Okay, so Booker T. Washington worked in a church.
Yes.
Part of Booker T. Washington's duty was to sweep the church. So Booker T. Washington swept the church. And he swept the church, and everybody marveled the extent to which Booker T swept and made the church so clean. So everybody must define what it means. I don't want to lead you down the garden path and say, look, you must be a business person. This is what you must do. But there are general principles about succeeding in life. They may apply to business. They may apply to being employed. They may apply to whatever you're doing. So define what your success means. Not everybody is going to be a successful business person. Actually, if everybody was a business person, then who would be employed?
And who would be the customers?
So I need to give that context to whatever we are talking about today. That it's only fair that we don't push people to commit suicide or to not like themselves for failing. Failing is part of life. Eventually,
true.
Eventually, if we don't fail, then there cannot be new ideas.
True. And then problems will not arise. We will not find solutions.
Exactly.
So, Sam, let me do this. Let me open this up for questions now. Start with Otoa. Otoa, what do you want to say to Sam?
Sam, it's great listening to you again. You know, the first time I interacted with Sam was at I think the Stanbic Oil and Gas SME conference or something of the sort in 2017.
Mhm.
I was still at
Mhm.
Total. And
Right.
Sam struck me with something. He was making a presentation on how we should think of our business as serious entities. And he said, stop calling your business ka business kange, ka side hustle kange. And he was very
Mhm.
clear on that. Sam, I just want you to give
Yes.
the young people listening in a lot of confidence
Mm.
in the whole idea of how they can actually grow their businesses. What are the steps that if they wanted to start their businesses, they should take in a gradual manner to get themselves there? Yes, you have said not everyone has to be an entrepreneur, not everyone has to be a business person, and so on and so
Mm.
forth. But for those who are very keen, what are those steps gradually that they can actually take on? And again, finally, I like your very hard on, very seriousness to this whole thing. But if someone wanted to come to you and get more advice, how do they reach you? And how do they know you and Robbie had this conversation before the show began? How does someone get to you for those who have just joined in? Thank you.
By paying me a commission. Sam, go ahead.
Okay.
Sam,
Okay.
you
Thank
can
you.
respond
Thank you.
to
Yes. Thank you, comrade. You owe me an invitation to one of those meat roasting evenings. But yes, thank you very
We
much
have a
for
plan.
touching base again. Now, this whole idea, and I've seen it amongst people because I don't know if it's the way our education system works. Many people, when they are doing a business and they have failed to get a job, so they start the business and they look at it in the context of an alternative to not being employed. So then they say ka business kange, akantu kange. When actually it is the one which is sustaining them. But if your attitude is that this thing is not permanent, it is temporary, then you have a very, very big problem. Now, I want to take this back to culture. I will go a bit personal. There's a business called Chikubo Online. I don't know if you people have seen a business called Chikubo Online.
yes.
The person who runs that business was in the same class with my son. Okay. He then went on. I forget the family name, but the big Indian family here. He then went on to university from ISU with my son. He left university and said he didn't like what he was studying. So he came back here and he started Chikubo Online. Okay. Young man, I think he's about 25 years old. Now, on the other hand, I see my son, and what I did with him is made sure that he got his degree. If he didn't get his degree, maybe I would get a gun and shoot him. So I don't know if I did the right thing for my son. So my son expects that he must sit at a job in Ernst and Young and work for the next 10 years in order to show his father that he's successful. Now, the young man who started Chikubo Online went to his father and said, man, I can't stand that crap. I don't want to be in school. Give me some money. I'm starting a business. And he started a business. Now, 5 years later, when I look at the gap between where my son is and where the other young man is, I see I have a lot of work to do to make sure that my son understands business and does not talk of business. So the attitude with which we approach doing business is wrong in the first place. We call it side hustle. It's not side hustle, man. It's the thing that feeds you. Not everybody must get a job. Actually, there are fewer jobs. There are more of us. If people can do business, they should have the right attitude and say, this is my thing. Have my card. Are you going to come to my business? I have quite a number of people.
Right.
So the issue then
So Sam,
yes?
No, go on. Okay. Sorry, the issue is?
Yeah, the issue then is when you start a business, it is your thing. It is the thing, not a business card. What are the steps to take to learn the business? I can only say this with you know, they say a fool has 2020 experience. So 2020 vision. So I say this, I give this answer as a fool because I've made so many mistakes. One, whenever I have started a business, I have never tried to understand the intricacies of that business. Now, even at the most basic level, okay, even at the most basic level, I have never understood, because one of the weaknesses I have is I am a risk taker. So I take risks without analyzing them. But for you who has your little money and you have a problem with it, you need to learn something about business before you get into it. The other thing, business is like swimming. You're going to swim in a river. Don't go in with both feet. Go in with one foot first. Go in slowly.
Right.
Then make sure that you know how to paddle, and then you get into the water and swim. But most intrinsically, find people who are already in that area and ask them to give you some wisdom. We don't have to ask. And I can say I am equally a victim of that problem. So if I had asked a few more questions, I wouldn't make the mistakes that I made. Now, if you want to get me, you can get me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on social media. But my main places of business are Matt Abacus. Look, I am in the business of teaching, and I would love to interact with as many people as possible. Actually, after this, I have been trying to convince Robert that how about we take 360 Mentor and make it one of the programs that we run through Matt Abacus. You know, I'm always looking for business. So
no, but now you must research whether it will work.
I don't know if it will work. I start with the instinct, then we shall find out if it will work. But with Robert, with 575 people on this listening to this, there must be
no, Sam.
But let me know,
Sam.
Yes,
it is not 570. It is 640.
Oh my God.
Accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Accounts.
Yeah.
Not people. Accounts.
Okay.
The people are way more than that.
Okay.
Let me say this, Sam, that Theo, who is one of our mentors, has kindly found me the title for Carol Dweck's book. It's called Mindset.
Mindset.
Yes,
Mindset.
Yeah. So if you read Mindset by Carol Dweck, and if you read Grit by Angela Duckworth and Peak, you are done. There's nothing more you'll Tovanja, as they say. But Sam, I've got many people lined up for questions.
Okay,
let them speak. Questions. So these ones you'll have to. Then you listen and then we shall answer. So let me start with Mugoya Moses.
Okay, thank you.
Mugoya Moses. What do you have to say?
Thank you very much, Kabushenga and Samuel. I am a young man who has been trying very much. I'm a public servant first and foremost. I've been trying very much to start a side business. And one of the factors that I've found, one, I've tried to do something to do with farming. I've gone into passion fruit farming. I've done other things. But one of the things that I want you to advise upon is every time we go into businesses, we expect returns. But unfortunately, they do not come as quickly as we expect them. So how do you advise people who, especially the young, because we see government is not going to employ everybody, but there is opportunity to do something, and people want quick cash. So how do you advise us, we the young people, about it? Thank you.
All right, I've got
how many questions?
My man. You just listen and write them down. You're a teacher. Okay. Solomon Tumwesije, Solo ST, my man at Apt Media, the guy who makes my life possible.
Thank you, Robo. You're so kind. I am an advocate of starting small because mistakes are guaranteed. That way, when you make the mistakes, you make them small. But then there's this also school of thought: go big or go home. What do you have to say about that, Samuel? I'm really keen. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I've got somebody called Emmanuel Nolo. Emmanuel Nolo. Emmanuel, can you speak? Okay, let's try Nicolas Arujo. Nicolas Arujo.
Yeah, I think I know
Good
Nicola.
evening. Yes, good evening. Thank you so much, Robert, and thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much also for Matt Abacus, Professor. I'm one of your beneficiaries. I've been able to get an MBA from Edinburgh, thanks to Matt Abacus. As someone who has succeeded both in the employment world, in the academic field, but also as an entrepreneur, I would like the professor to briefly talk about how to make that transition from being employed to owning successful businesses. I know there are so many people on this space who have a dream of doing that. If he could kindly share his ideas on that topic. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Okay, now I'll take one mic. S, mic 311.
Good evening, Robert. Thanks for organizing this, and thanks, Professor, for the wonderful presentation. I just wanted to pick your brain on two things mainly. One, what do you think about restricting the types of businesses that people coming into the country are supposed to do? For example, when you look at the case of ShopRite, if they've come into the country and they're going to play the long game, what do you think about having them limited in terms of the areas they can operate? For example, we know they're here for the long term, and then they have a requirement to invest in the different areas of the country. That way, you have the investment, but it also ensures that you only have people who are serious about doing business. And the second thing I wanted to ask also is about the minimum investment license that people are required when they're coming to open up shop here. I think it's around 100,000. My view is 100,000 is quite a very small amount of money, and it doesn't encourage someone who is going to play the long game. And yet I think the economy would benefit more from people who are going to think long term, see where the country is going, and they're not looking at short-term gains, for example, from their personal in their personal views, for example, in terms of where the matrix structure is. For example, if someone is making a decision to invest in Uganda, if he knows.
So what's your point, Mike, exactly? Because you're getting lost in too many things. What's the point you're trying to make?
The two things is the minimum investment amount license, restricting that amount, and also the requirement to diversify in different areas in the country. For example, if ShopRite is coming as an investor, you have terms like you should have shop in Barara, Arua, Jinja, say 5 major towns, so that by the time someone is actually making such a decision, they're thinking long term, and at the end of it all, the country benefits.
Okay, all right. So Sam, I know you've dropped off. Can you just send the request again and we get you back on? I know you're listening. In the meantime, I'll have Kevin Tusingwide.
Thank you very much. My question is simple. How can we educate our young people, or we, the young people, how to scale our businesses, or what you think about scalability of businesses? Two, the other question is do you advise our young people to either enter the workforce environment first and learn the intricacies of business or organizations and their structures before they start their businesses? Thank you.
Okay, great. And as I told you, Sam is listening anyway. He's just dropped off as a speaker, so I'm trying to get him back in. But I will ask somebody called Ndugu. Ndugu, what do you have to say?
Hi, Robert. My question.
Hi.
My question is simple. I would just want to know what someone would do in a position like his sons to catch up with his friend Chikubu online?
Wow, good question. Eddie Muyobo in Chicago.
Yes, Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Yeah,
very well.
perfectly for the first time in a while. In the sense, my
Yeah, you've been missing.
yes, it doesn't favor for those who live in the middle of Illinois. But in the sense, my question was more towards you. The question was that I know that you own a farm, but the question was, have you ever introduced technology such as either IBM into your farm, using technology to enhance a lot of the things you'd want to do in your farm? I was trying to see if I could connect with you in order to do so with a partner such as IBM.
Okay. The simple answer is yes, I have my technology. But let me just check that Sam, are you back on?
Yes, I'm back on.
Okay, do you want to answer some of those questions before we take the next set?
I don't know. Yeah, I can try and answer the questions, but I lost it when Mike was on, when he was talking about restricting types of businesses to foreigners. So I don't know which questions I missed.
No, you.
But let me try and answer
one of the most interesting ones I'll tell you is, if somebody asked, put yourself in your son's position now. What would you do to catch up with his friend who is now in business, the guy of Chikubo? What if you were your son today? What would you do?
I am sure my son is listening right now. So I'll speak to them. Okay.
Well,
okay. Let me try and answer the ones that I can. Moses. And I think Moses asked a very important question. Is a public servant?
Yes.
With a side business, which includes passion fruit. I think that resonates better with you, even working at in all the public spaces you worked, media center, New Vision, and so forth, and ending up in the farm. And I want to ask, maybe in a roundabout where you need not answer, what returns are you getting now that you are doing the farming full time versus when you had to run New Vision, the Vision Group? So
I can tell you right away, by the way.
Yeah.
I have already identified the cost centers that need to be chopped, because at that time I wasn't paying attention to them, but now I am, and I'm just working out how to bring them down in October. Simple.
Okay. Thank you. So my own experience is that a lot of the problems we face as public servants is not to concentrate on being a public servant, but to try to do a side business. Now, when you do a side business, you are either a telephone farmer or a telephone contractor or whatever. So whatever your employees tell you is what you go with. And
yes,
we have very serious issues of trust in this society. So you are always bound to lose money. So what I discovered, and these things, I do not say them because I did them right. No, I am saying them because I made mistakes. So what I have discovered is, when I was a public servant, I should have concentrated more on the passive income rather than on going and doing active business. So if I was still there where you are, Moses, one, I would ask myself, how much money have I put in buying shares? I know there's going to be an IPO for MTN. I don't know how much money you have to buy those shares. How much money have I invested in treasury bills? How much money am I investing in this collective investment scheme, of which I'm a member, when I know that my money is safe? So then I don't go into passion fruit farming when I am not there. Look, the other alternative is, you can be a successful passion fruit farmer if you are able to be an effective civil servant and also control your investment in the village. The one about returns, I've talked about it very clearly. anybody who wants to be successful overnight, they say that there's a saying that success is the only word that comes. Success comes before work, only in the dictionary. So you have to work hard in order to be successful. So I don't know if that gives you an idea, but for me, I have learned the hard way that it is very stupid. It is a very stupid thing for me to take my money, which I have earned by working in the public service, and entrusting it to a villager. I'm sorry to use the word villager. I don't use it in a disparaging manner. I am simply saying to somebody who has no interest in what I'm doing. Maybe one can talking about the family. There's the basic family unit. Maybe you're doing the business with your wife. That makes more sense. But if you're not doing it with your wife, then you are asking yourself how to lose money. Robert, long before you became a student at Makerere University, I think one of the first businesses I did, 1991, is I owned taxis. I owned about 3 taxis. And somebody had told me that taxis were okay. So one of my taxis was working, was plying the road between Wandegea, because I lived in Wandegea in the flat, and the taxi park. So one day I think I had troubled. Then my wife called me and told me, this taxi had an accident in the corner, and the driver disappeared. So then when I think back about that, look, I am the fool. I'm the one who took my hard-earned earnings and entrusted them with a taxi driver. So the bigger point, Moses, is we should leave the business of taxi driving to taxi drivers. But anyway, that's a call for you to make. Solomon, go big or go home. That's a big one.
Yeah.
My very good friend Patrick Bitature is the one who likes that one. He told me about a long time ago. We were trying to make an investment and introduced me to the tire problem, the rubber problem. I will call it the tire problem. And he was talking about the idea of success. He was saying that, look, if you really want to be successful, you must push yourself to the limit. You are like a tire. A tire works best when it is full of air. So maybe that is the go big or go home. But I think depending on how you have gotten the money, you really can't say you are going to dive in with both feet. So I can't give you a very straight answer, but some people believe you go big or go home, or you go big and go bust, or you go big and be successful. There are quite a number of outcomes. Emmanuel, I didn't hear from you. Nicholas, nice to see you again. The transition from employment to business. I think one of the things, again, Robert, one of the things people who come to spaces must make a habit is to read. Because there's a lot of information out there. Now, one of the things that I read and has always tickled me is that never ask for advice. Never ask for financial advice from a bricklayer. That quotation comes from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know how many people on this spaces have read about it, but yes, you can ask me because I have transitioned from employment to business. But I'm not giving you this advice because I did the right things. I'm giving you this advice because I've realized that when I transitioned from employment to business, I should have known that I was going to transition from employment to business. Now, I don't know how many people have that in mind. You remember, you and I have faced this problem. One day, you are the deputy principal. The next day, give them their car, give them their guards, give them everything. You're on your own.
Yeah.
One day you are the CEO of New Vision. The next day, you're on the street. So the point is, did we, and I can say this now with 2020 vision, did we ever envisage we would not be in those positions? So I think anybody who is employed today must begin thinking in terms of a transition. So look at your balance sheet. How much passive income do you have? How long can you survive without getting a salary? And I think Joan talked about that yesterday. Robert, you talked about that yesterday. I was listening. So you must plan that transition. So don't jump, kaboom. Today you are being driven around in a Pajero with all these sirens flying. Then the next day you are saying, please, I am going into self-employment. It's very difficult to just transition like that. That's why you find some people, they either die very quickly or they go back and ask for very small jobs, which even me, some Sejjaka, I wonder if I will do them. I will not give you names, but
okay.
You must have a transition. You must have a plan. You need to have a plan. Nicholas, I'm sure you have transition. Yeah. Then Mike, yes, I'm moving on. Have I run out of time?
No, it's just that Mike, I have a lot of other questions which I wanted to accommodate.
Let me finish two more. Let me finish two more, then you go on. Mike, really, this is a policy problem. Restricting types of business, restricting types of certain businesses to locals. I don't know. I'm not an advocate of that school because one, the skill level of locals is so bad. It is so poor. They lack trust. Look, I was here in 1987, and people are giving us a lot of stick for the things we did in 1987 through structured adjustment and liberalization. But there was nothing here. We had a minister, His Excellency the President used to talk much about this, that there was a minister for supplies. If you look at that place where there's Cafe Javas in the corner, Parliament Avenue, everybody goes to that was food and beverages. You needed a chief to go there to get sugar.
The minister we've really give you a chief to go to a supermarket.
Yes, to get crates of soda. Really? To go and kill yourself and buy soda. So
but
we've come a long way. And I think we've been able to come a long way, and the world is a global village. There's no way I can say that making granuts is for Basoga, making chapati is for Basoga, and then cooking matoke is for Baganda. I think that is primitive. You can find that there's a Chinese man who makes better granuts than a Musoga. So we must compete.
That will be the day.
Yeah, we need to get exposure. Look, if the Chinese had not come here and started carpentry shops, if they had not started the hardware shops, where would we be? If we said we left all this business to the Africans, and I can say this, I am lucky. I was a bit old when Amin came here to power. I have gone through the Obote regime. I am seeing a lot of this regime. Look, when Amin chased the Asians in a short period of 3 years, those shops you see on Kampala Road were selling bananas because the Indians had gone away with all the You remember our former mayor, Lord Mayor. He had a shop. These people in a short order were selling bananas because they did not know how to open an LC. They did not know how to borrow money from the bank. They don't know how to write a bankable proposal. So I guess progress is a process. Now, my son, that's a difficult one. I think the position I have taken on this particular matter is that I was right in the first place. that my son should go to school, and I think everybody should go to school. Where I was wrong was to insist that my son must then be employed and learn to be an accountant. But if he wants to become an accountant, let him become a good accountant. The thing is, he should not what? He should not want to have his cake and also eat it at the same time. And I think that's where the Indians beat us. If you want to be out of school, then go and be a man and be successful. If you want to be in school, then also be successful. So it's a very difficult situation, but I think my son could do better by simply knowing that whatever he chooses, he needs to be the best. There is no in between. Now, that Robert, before you ask other questions, that brings in for me the problem of culture, because in all of these things we are talking, and we're not talking about the context of culture. We Africans have learned the white man's culture. We have learned the Indian's culture, but the Indian has not learned our culture, and neither has the Indian learned the white man's culture. The Indian has stuck to his culture, and if you look very carefully in the Indian's culture, the Indian's culture is a matriarchal society. They don't only still live in the same house. You still find that the boss of the homestead is the mother or the grandmother. So when the grandmother gives orders, those orders are obeyed. Now, for me, Sam Sejjaka, I don't know if when I give orders in my house, they are obeyed, or whether when my wife gives orders, those orders become what? Become matching orders in terms of what the family should do. So the Indians, the Turks, and whatever you want to call them, the Arabs, they have stuck to a certain cultural behavior, which is very important. Now, we have a problem. Our children are also confused. Are they Muzungus or are they Africans? They don't know. Now, add to that the problem that we have also intermarried. What is the language you speak in the home? So these things, somehow they also work against us. Anyway, I thought I'd make that point, but I think I've tried to answer the question.
Let me ask other people to come in. There is somebody called Shachira Rukundo.
Thank you so much, Robert, for these spaces. I have two questions for Samuel and one observation. One question is, you've talked about businesses that have collapsed or that have had problems. That are most of them foreign companies. There are also other foreign companies that have done well. So you give an example of Stanbic Bank. Could you shed more light of, for instance, what foreign companies have, those that have performed well, what they did best, and those that have ended up collapsing, what they did wrong? I think you've talked about the failures. Could you shed more light on on the good things they did well? The second question is talking about entrepreneurship. One of the challenges that I can envisage, that I see on our landscape, is high interest rates. Generally, it's very hard for us to run businesses on our savings. We'll take a lifetime to save enough money to start a business. We have extremely high interest rates. What do you advise in terms of your work with banks and on bank boards on providing interest rates, especially for high productive and high growth, high potential sectors, on where you don't have to borrow at 20% or 15% and things like that? The observation, I was wondering whether you feel that your back is covered well. You've given examples of banks that are failing or corporations that are failing using their exact names. Do you think saying those names is good because they might come after you for bad publicity? Thank you.
Okay. Let me ask John Masaba. John Masaba. John Masaba. Okay. And my person, dark and lovely.
Hi, Robert. It's always
That
a
is
pleasure.
Ruth.
It's always a pleasure.
We now know she's Ruth. So yes, so we're getting
Still
there.
dark and lovely. Ruth not yet launched officially. Hi, Robert. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Dr. Sam. Thanks for the presentation.
Prof.
Hi,
Prof.
Ruth.
Prof.
Mine is a short one this evening. I would like you to shed some light on the importance of bookkeeping on the performance of small businesses. Thank you.
Okay, great. And finally, Emmanuel Magala. Emmanuel Magala, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Professor Samuel. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And first of all, I would love to thank you for organizing this. Mine is very simple. I have had, or I run a business, but I've had challenges ever since the first lockdown. You know, Professor there was talking about concentrating on doing what we know best. However, he did not mention some aspects of or some aspects that could come in because of the skill set. Now, when you're running a business or a company, you may be very good. Personally, I'm a very good salesperson, but I'm not a very good finance person. So to me, my biggest challenge is managing the finances. And I may not be able to have enough money to hire an expert in finance. I need more light there. Thank you so much.
So, Sam, let's
Yes.
do this. Let's do this because our time's really gone. So, I wanted to ask you that the questions that have come through, can you kindly answer them on the timeline we had of the 360 Mentor, so that those questions are answered there.
Okay.
But what I would like to ask you to do, now is, can you give us what would be your final message now? I mean, things that we've looked at, and you know that people are on enterprise, you've heard the questions they're asking and the things that were raised earlier. What's your final word for the evening?
Okay. Fine. Thank you very much, Robert. One, I need to go back and say something which I shared with.
Sam, I don't know whether it is me. Tony, is it me or is Sam off?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I think we may have lost Sam.
You don't.
Sam. Oh my God. So Sam, I know you can hear. One of the problems we have is at least I can't hear you. Tony, can you hear him?
I can hear you 100%. 100%.
How about Sam? We've lost him. He's become a listener. So guys, I think this is what we're gonna do. Let's see if he reconnects again. Sam, can you hear us? Sam, are you able to speak? Try and speak. Tony, can you mute your mic for now? Tony, mute your mic. Okay. So I'll just say this. Sam, I know you're listening. Unfortunately, we can't hear you, and there's something wrong with you being able to log on. What I'll say to you is thank you very much for spending the day with us. People said this is stuff that we pay for lots of money, but today we're getting it for free. And I think you've given us great insights on the things that fail businesses and how we can do better. This conversation will definitely continue on Twitter. But for now, all I need to do is tell you that tomorrow we will be hosting Ojok Okello, the founder of Okere City. It is driven by people power, solar power, and share butter. And by the way, the story is not only is it a sustainable city, it is actually making money and feeding itself. So tomorrow, we shall be listening to Ojok Okello and just figure out what kind of person is this and how has he been able to do it. As Tony said, he's from LA. Well, he's probably LA's best kept secrets because the guys that come here like Tony, we know them. So guys, thank you so much for listening to me and Sam and for engaging with him the whole day. It's been great having you on the mentoring session. And tomorrow, we shall have an even greater Ugandan talking to us. Thank you so much.